The young girl who was returning from the concert of her favorite performer disappeared without a trace 5 minutes from her home. The police, together with volunteers, began searching. And very soon, it became clear to them that the answer to this terrible mystery had been before their eyes all along. And before the release, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like, it's very important. Keely Bunker was born on 7 September 1999 in Tamworth, England. She had 2 other children. When the girl was little, her parents divorced. Keely stayed to live with her mother and stepfather. She loved the children very much, and still in school years, I decided that she wanted to work as a teacher or teacher. For this, she needed to get a teacher's education. However, for some reason, Kelly did not go to college immediately after school. Instead, she decided to work as a waitress and returned to school after a while. September 2019 was a very busy month for her. Keely celebrated her 20th birthday, planned to go to a concert of her favorite performer, and even got an offer of work as an assistant kindergarten teacher. She looked forward to the interview scheduled for 19 September. The day after the concert, on the 18th, Keely and her best friend Monique went to Birmingham. It's a big city 30 kilometers away, where the concert was supposed to take place. The girls had a great time, and after the end of the event, around 10 o'clock in the evening, they decided to meet some more friends at the local club. After spending several hours there, the company set out to go home. Keely, Monique, and their mutual friend Wesley lived in the same Tamworth neighborhood, so they called one taxi and drove to Monique's house. All 3 had known each other since early childhood and had been friends since kindergarten. The girl suggested that Keely should stay overnight at her place so as not to walk at night, but she decided to go home. She wanted to sleep in her bed and prepare for her upcoming interview. Wesley also volunteered to accompany her. Keely herself was a very small girl. She was about 150 centimeters tall and she weighed only 40 kilograms. So Monique was very concerned for her safety at this time of day. But when she heard that Wesley was walking her to the door, she said goodbye to them and 2 friends left. Keely's house was about 20 minutes walk away. At the end of that time, her friend texted her and asked her if she had come, but Keely never answered her. So Monique wrote to Wesley. The guy told her they split up about 5 minutes from her house, near the phone booth. Her friend decided that Keely had gone straight to bed and calmed down. Monique tried to call her the next morning, but there was still no answer. She thought the girl was still sleeping, but with each passing hour, the situation became more tense. In the morning, Keely's mother went to her room and, to her surprise, found her daughter not there. Then she called Monique, hoping that Keely would stay over, but she said that the girl had gone home at night. After that, Mom wrote a post on the social network asking if anyone had seen Keely. No one she knew had contacted the girl on that day. After 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the mother called from a kindergarten where Keely was supposed to be interviewing. But she never showed up. It was already very disturbing to her relatives, as they all knew how much the girl wanted this job. After that, her parents contacted Wesley, who was accompanying her that night. The guy told them he was going to drive her home, but that night he had too much to drink and felt bad. So he and Keely said goodbye and broke up. Wesley felt responsible for not bringing her home as he had originally planned. So he went with her friends and family to find Keely. Around the same time, around 5:00 p.m., her parents decided to go to the police. Together with the volunteers, they began searching the area along the route the girl was supposed to follow that night. Wesley said they split up near a phone booth on Wordsworth Avenue. At that time, the girl was not very drunk and it was about 5 minutes to go home. The police decided to split the search into 2 directions. While the volunteers and investigators were exploring the route from the phone booth to Keely's home, the other officers, along with Wesley, followed the path that the 2 friends took from Monique's home. The guy was willing to cooperate, but when asked to provide his smartphone, he absolutely refused to do it. If we could look at his phone, the police could track their route and time more precisely. However, Wesley accused the investigators of trying to pin the blame on him, as he was the last person to see the girl that night. Besides, he didn't want outsiders looking at his photo correspondence and other personal information. However, the detectives eventually convinced him that they were only interested in the smartphone's geolocation, and the guy gave it away. Meanwhile, the first find appeared. In the park, which was located near Wordsworth Avenue, a backpack with women's belongings was found. Keely's family and friends immediately confirmed that it belonged to her. Inside was her clothes, keys, and a disconnected phone. After a while, volunteers and policemen heard a shrill scream coming from the same park. Keely's uncle, who was part of the search, discovered her body. He decided to look around a small stream and dedicated a lantern there. In the darkness, the man noticed something shiny. As he got closer, he realized that it was a human arm with a bracelet. Keely was lying there. Her pants and underwear were pulled down. The police immediately concluded that the girl had been assaulted, and the body was handed over to medical experts. Pending the results, the detectives decided to look into Wesley because he was the last person to see the victim, and he was quite nervous talking to the police. Suspicion was aroused by the fact that the young man initially refused to give them his smartphone, although this could in theory help find Keely alive. Wesley had been friends with her since the age of 5. They went to the same kindergarten, and it was very strange that the guy was not ready to provide any assistance in finding her. There was another interesting moment waiting for the detectives. When they decided to unlock Wesley's phone, he gave them the wrong password. The police soon received footage from the local rugby club's cameras in the park, spotted by Wesley and Keely at about 4:20 am. According to these images, there was an argument between them, and the girl tried to run away from her friend. All this contradicted Wesley's story. He claimed to have left Keely outside the phone booth and went home, but the rugby club was at the other end of the park. This meant that the young man lied to the detectives. Wesley was arrested immediately afterwards, but he has not yet been charged with murder. Investigators assured him that they just wanted to clarify all the controversial points, and the guy was quite relaxed. Meanwhile, the police had access to his smartphone and discovered something else suspicious. According to geolocation, Wesley left the park only at 6 am and then returned several times before noon. Investigators were also able to locate several witnesses who saw Wesley in the park that morning. According to their accounts, the young man wandered back and forth and looked lost. According to medical experts, Keely was strangled to death. They also confirmed that the girl was assaulted. Given all the above, Wesley became the prime suspect. He was charged. While he continued to deny involvement, another very interesting piece of evidence was found in the park. Just a few meters from where Keely's body was located, they found Wesley's bank card. During the interrogation, the guy was confronted with all these facts and realized that there was no point in continuing with the original version. Instead, he told the detectives a new story. According to him, he was very drunk that night and did not remember to enter this park. All he remembered was that they were walking down the street and laughing. At some point, there was a joke struggle between them. Wesley jumped on the girl's back, causing her to fall and hit her head. Of course, this version of the event ran counter to the facts. The cause of Keely's death was strangulation, not head trauma. Moreover, there were traces of her own skin under her fingernails. This indicated that the girl was trying to free her neck from her attacker. And the idea of Wesley jumping on Keely's back as a joke sounded ridiculous. The girl was about 6 feet tall, and the guy was 6 foot. By that time, medical experts had finished examining the body and extracted a DNA sample from the person who had abused her. It was a perfect match to Wesley's DNA. Detectives took the guy's clothes he was wearing that night and sent them to the lab. Forensics found traces of Keely's DNA and makeup on his shirt. They matched the makeup found in her backpack. After learning of this evidence, Wesley changed his story again. He stated that they had actually entered the park and had consensual sexual intercourse. But at some point, the girl collapsed and died. Wesley said that at that moment, his hand was on her neck, but he did not squeeze it. He supposedly checked his pulse and realized Keely was dead. Panicking, the young man hid her body in a stream and covered it with twigs because he did not know what else to do. The detectives again considered the story to be outright fiction. In their opinion, Wesley tried to align his theories with the facts that came to his attention, but it didn't matter to the police. They had a lot of evidence, and the case was brought to court. During the trial, Wesley maintained the theory that he had accidentally killed Keely during intercourse, even though it went against her injuries. When asked why he had not called the ambulance or the police, the boy stated that he was scared and simply did not know how to explain what had happened. The prosecution has provided a much more realistic scenario. Apparently, Wesley started harassing Keely that night, but she didn't want any sexual relations with him. The girl always regarded Wesley as a good friend. A guy who was very drunk did not accept rejection and decided to achieve his strength. As a result, he abused the girl and strangled her. After that, he hid her body, returned home, slept for several hours, and went back to the park to cover the body with branches. He went back several times, trying to figure out what to do next. The chronology of these events is confirmed by the geolocation of his phone. This trial was observed throughout the small town, as such crimes were rarely committed there. The story was also heavily covered on television, and at that time, 5 girls came to the police and said that Wesley had molested and abused them. Most of them were minors. 3 girls stated that the boy had sexually abused them against their will, and 2 others said that he abused them. They were all afraid to go to the police, but seeing that Wesley had killed the girl, the victims decided to tell the story. As a result, he was charged with 5 more charges. The jury found him guilty of Keely's murder within a short time, and in August 2020, Wesley was sentenced to life in prison. He can be released in 30 years if a special commission finds him not dangerous to society. By then, he will be 51 years old. After the sentencing hearing, the trial participants admitted that Wesley was off the standard rapist routine. The guy was young, had a lot of friends, never felt a lack of female attention. But despite all this, he committed a crime against at least 6 girls, one of whom died. One who has considered him a close friend since childhood. Share your opinion on this story in the comments. And don't forget to like it if you like it. You can also subscribe to our channel, where we post current criminal news. Thanks for watching it.